affected accordingly. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us sincerity and to make this benefiting. The subject of Fiqh of Dawah. Fiqh of Dawah. When we talk about Fiqh of Dawah, we need first to understand what the title means and what the components of this title, and then we go from there inshallah ta'ala. Fiqh, the word fiqh means not necessarily jurisprudence or matters of halal and haram. This is one of the meanings of fiqh, or the first meaning that comes into one's mind. But fiqh, linguistically, means al-fahm, or understanding, or comprehension of whatever matter there is. So to have the proper understanding. To have the fiqh, that means to have the knowledge with the proper understanding of what we're talking about. So fiqh al-da'wah, right, it's basically the understanding how da'wah is, what does it mean, what's the content of it, how to give da'wah, and so on. Also, when we say fiqh al-da'wah, sometimes people might think that it's about how to give da'wah. This is only one component of it. And that's why when we think about da'wah, what da'wah means invitation. That's what linguistically means. And religiously, the word da'wah means when someone called to the religion of Islam, qawlan wa amalan. This is as the ulama define what da'wah is. When you're calling to the deen of Islam. Calling who? This is something else. Either calling a non-Muslim or calling Muslims. We are in need of da'wah ourselves, individuals, Muslims. So calling to the religion of Islam in its comprehensive meaning with speech and actions. So da'wah is not going to be just speech. It's not going to be one set of things that a person would say, I made da'wah today, or this is my da'wah. No, it's speech and actions. Right, so it's the whole entire move of the Daee, or the one that invites, basically is da'wah, and it's part of the da'wah. So to understand this, or to have the knowledge of this is definitely knowledge that we need to learn. And the knowledge is the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way it was understood and applied at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and the early generations of Islam. And if we don't talk about any method that we talk about without the text, without the wahy, without the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're wasting our time. So the ilm and our job is that we go back to the text, to the wahy, to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and to understand what it means and how to apply it. And then we have another variable, which is the environment that we live in, right? To try to apply what we know from the text, from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to that environment or another environment, and so on. So the components of fiqh al-da'wah is, we have the person, when there is a da'wah going on, that means there is a da'i, right? There is an inviter, there's a caller to whatever he is giving da'wah to or for. There's a mad'u, there is the one that is being invited, right? So the da'i is a huge subject, right? And that's the most important part of the da'wah. And if we talk about the da'i, and this is inshallah, we'll talk about that in details, the da'i, we should think first of the messengers of Allah. And the best of all the messengers of Allah is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And in the Prophet alayhi wasallam, we have the best example. So there's the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there's the companions radiallahu anhum, there's the ulama and the imma of this deen, and the stories in the Quran with the prophets of Allah. None also people that are not prophets, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Quran in the context of da'wah. We need to study that and to see how they gave da'wah, and so on. So the subject of a da'i, the individual that is given da'wah, his characteristics, what are the certain things that he has to have, and it's not just knowledge, but knowledge and other things. The mad'u, or the invited one, there are many people that are subject of the da'wah. It's basically all mankind. So you have the Muslim, and within the Muslims you have the Muslim sinner and the righteous Muslim, and you have the Muslim that might show some characteristics of hypocrisy, right? Or innovations in the deen, or someone that has or shows some signs of arrogance, or someone that is humble. So there are many different types of people among Muslims. So these are people to be invited, and how to deal with each category. This is knowledge. This is something that is mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we have examples of that. You have the non-Muslims, right? You have the different types of non-Muslims, whether they are from the people of the book, Jews or Christians, or other sorts of beliefs. And the Quran addressed all these types of people, and each group, they were addressed in a certain way. And the Prophet ﷺ also gave the da'wah to these different people in different ways, and the knowledgeable of them versus those who are not knowledgeable. So the matter is knowledge that needs to be for us to learn and to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have the Daee, we have the one that calls and invites, we have the Mad'u, or the one that is invited with the different categories. We also have the content of the da'wah. What is the da'wah? What are we calling people to? Right? Human beings, something that they love and they believe in, they would try to call people to, whether it's for business, for money, they call it marketing, they want to sell something, or the people with ideologies and thoughts and ideas and so on, they also spread what they believe is the most perfect thing or so. So what is the content of our da'wah? Is it something that we can have differences of opinions what our da'wah should be, or it's wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Definitely it's wahi. So this is the ilm also that we need to learn, which is basically the whole entire deen of Islam, right? So the content of the da'wah, what is the da'wah? What is the proper manhaj and knowledge that we're supposed to call people to? What are we calling people to? Are we calling people to a group or to a certain methodology or to some understanding? We're supposed to call them to the religion of Islam and to the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is another subject with details in it. There's the ways to give the da'wah, and that is a variable that can change from one place to the other, from one time to the other. So that what might work to some people might not work to others. How to approach people, what would work with them better, people, those who know how to read versus those who do not know how to read, and things like this. So there's the asalib, or the ways of da'wah, which is also has to be with the guidelines of the deen of Islam. And everything has to be governed by the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Da'wah, it's, as we would know inshallah ta'ala, which is the first thing that I would like to talk about, the importance of it, the virtues of it. It's something very virtuous, of course. This is the job of the prophets, and there's nothing better than to follow the messengers in what they originally did, or that's their main job, is to call people to what is right and what is good. But also at the same time, it's a very dangerous route to take. Meaning, it's a very virtuous one, but there is fitan, there's tests and tribulations on the way, the same way the messengers they went through, and they needed the strength and the steadfastness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, otherwise a person can deviate so easily. Why? Because when a person is in the field of da'wah, right, he sees people around him deviated or away from the truth and so on. First of all, he has to make sure that he himself is on the truth, because everybody claims to be on the truth. So this is one thing. And the other thing is, with regards to others, we have to make sure that the goal is not guidance to others. The goal of da'wah is not for people to be guided, which is a misunderstanding to many people. Many people, they think you're successful in da'wah if people accept your message. MashaAllah, you did a great job, and people would say that you're the best da'i, or people even would think that this is how you get rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is never the goal of da'wah. The goal of da'wah is to do your job, to convey the truth in the most perfect way. And that's it. The acceptance, this is not in our control. Guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why this is important? It's important because you would never compromise anything of the message. When people compromise things when they're calling others to the deen, because they think that their success is when people accept the message. No. Their success is to convey the message in the most perfect way. People accept it or not, this is not in our capacity. And that's why, as one of the beliefs of the people of Ahl Sunnah, this is a matter of Aqidah, that no prophet of Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent that had failed in his mission. All of them, they were successful. Perfectly successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not choose the prophets unless they are the most perfect human beings with the job that they're entrusted to do. So they are the best of all human beings, and they're all successful. None of them failed whatsoever. So as a result of that, we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that يأتي النبي, meaning in the day of judgment, when the Prophet ﷺ saw the day of judgment and he saw that his ummah is big in number and so on, the hadith of the 50,000 people, those who enter Jannah without hisab, without reckoning, in this hadith the Prophet ﷺ said that I saw النبي ومعه الرهط والنبي ومعه الرجلان والنبي وليس معه أحد. I saw the Prophet with group of people, followers, and I saw a Prophet with two, and I saw a Prophet with nobody. A Prophet comes in the day of judgment after wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him, and he works on his people and call them, and of course Prophet has the best manners, has the best subject of the da'wah, and all what is perfect, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him to be the messenger of Allah, and with all of this, not even one follower, not even one, right? And imagine that this is the case of someone that is living today. Then he would call himself a loser and he would go find something else to do. This is a prophet that was successful. He was successful in conveying the message to his people. So this is something that we have to take care of early on. That the success of da'wah is to be steadfast on the truth and to do what is right and to convey it in the most perfect way. And of course guidance is an important thing, of course. It's not like a person doesn't care. The Prophet ﷺ said to Ali radiallahu anhu, لأن يهدي الله بك رجلا واحدا خير لك من حمر النعم. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you the reason for the guidance of one man, is better for you than the best type of camels, the red ones. And compared to what we know today, is the best type of wealth whatsoever, is better for you that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you the reason for the guidance of one person. So definitely this is a goal to be attained, but it's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be steadfast, to be followers, not to think that we can do it on our own. So that's why again the matter has to be done with the wahy, not with our desires or what works, right? Because this is another fitna. You try something and it works, so you think that this is definitely has to be right because it worked, right? That's not necessarily true. And the very extreme example, right? If say someone is told that if you commit a sin, a small sin, but that sin, if you commit it, the whole entire country will become Muslims, right? How many people would say it's just a sin and then repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is not permissible to do that. If it's a sin, there's no compromisation in this whatsoever. Guidance is in the hands of Allah, right? So this is another, there are principles like this. So the heart for the one that is giving da'wah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is totally dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala totally. Does not rely on any other means or human beings or whatever there is, taking the means, studying the knowledge, applying the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ with the most perfect way, but relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that at the end the guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then after we mention these components, and this is basically the subject of the many hours of the seminar, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. When we talk about da'wah, we'll talk about the whole entire deen of Islam, but of course we can do that in one seminar. Because in Surah Al-Asr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the level of a da'wah with all the levels of matters of the deen. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. That indeed all mankind are in loss. Everyone. And the word al-insan is jins al-insan, the human race. All of them are in total loss, except إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except for those who believe, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, did righteous good deeds, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, and they enjoined what is right, which is calling others to do what is right, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and they enjoined sabr or patience. As a result of calling others to the truth, they have to have patience, and as a result of the iman and the good deeds, they have to have patience. So these four levels, the more the person perfect them, the more he perfect his deen and he's away from being in loss. And any deficiency in it, that means there's some loss. So that much loss or that much loss, it depends on how the deficiencies in these four things, and one of which is the da'wah. So this is definitely part of our deen. And when before we get into the evidences, and this is what we'll try to do inshallah ta'ala tonight, and one component that I didn't mention, or I mentioned, it's the stories, the examples. This is by itself something that can take a long time. The dua that are mentioned in the Quran, those who invite to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did the prophets in the Quran say to their people? This is knowledge to be taught. What did they say to their people? It doesn't have to be that you would say exactly the same words, right? But this is the subject. This is when it comes to the content of the da'wah. You can expand or you can say it in a different way, but it's the same subject. Because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered them to convey to their people. So the stories mentioned in the Quran, the stories mentioned in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. How was his da'wah in Mecca versus the da'wah in Medina, individuals, nations, so many things, right? So it's something that really needs for us to have the patience to learn it, and to have the patience to learn it, and to have the sincerity that we do things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And anything we do, it has to have, as they say, mabda' wa ghaya, which is another point. Something that drives you to do things, and there's a goal in anything we do. What drives us to discuss this and to act according to this, it's the honor of being in this level, the honor of being someone that calls to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the goal of it, right, is to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not the goal that people will be guided, right? The goal is to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of which is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He will guidance for others, mashallah, this is a great thing. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he said a statement in explanation of one of the verses of the Quran, which shows the virtues of da'wah. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ, here وَمَنْ means لا أحد أحسن. There is no one better قولا in speech than someone دعا إلى الله, called to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. دعا, this is the verb of da'wah. There's no one better, best in speech than someone called to Allah. And that's again the significance here. Who are we calling to? Are we calling to an organization, or to a group of people, or to our masjid, or to our institution? Because sometimes it's very fine and a person has to make sure that the matter is so clear. We're calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and did righteous good deeds. وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and he said, I am among the Muslims. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah, he said, after reciting this ayah, he said, هَذَا Habibullah. This person that the ayah talks about is Habibullah, is the one that is beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَذَا Waliyullah. This is Waliyullah, right? The one that is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the righteous person close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَذَا Safwatullah. This is the chosen one by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَذَا Khayratullah. This is the best man to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. هَذَا أَحَبُّ أَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. This is the man, or this is the person that is the most beloved from among all the people of earth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why all of this? أَجَابَ اللَّهَ فِي دَعْوَتِهِ. Why? Because he responded to the call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He called him to embrace the truth. وَدَعَ النَّاسَ إِلَى مَا أَجَابَ اللَّهَ فِيهِ مِنْ دَعْوَتِهِ. And he called the people to what he had responded to, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him to be in. He accepted the call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be a believer, and he did not just stay like that. He called people to what he himself accepted. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فِي إِجَابَتِهِ. And he did righteous good deeds in his acceptance to the truth. وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And he said, indeed I am among the Muslims. Then at the end he says, هَذَا Khalifatullah. This is the successor. This is the one that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted him on the face of earth. And that's clearly says in the ayah, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ. There's nobody better in speech than someone did these things. Called to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and did righteous good deeds, and see the significance of وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. So proud to say this and to say it and mean it, right? Not to say it with the word al-Muslimin, alif lam mim sin lam mim ya nun, that means just some sound. No, it means things. And that's what needs to be conveyed to the people, what Muslimin means, what Islam means. And you can, sometimes it depends on the context, you can remove the word because if it's strange to them in the beginning, don't use it. But use what it means to them, right? And if in the first 10 minutes you're talking to someone about the submission to the creator of the heavens and the earth, you don't have to say Aslim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be a Muslim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't understand what that means. He thinks that it's another religion, right, that you're calling him to. But if you use the meaning so that the meaning is there. And this is one of the things that we lack so much nowadays that makes a big difference between us and the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. Sahaba radiallahu anhum took things seriously. Every word, they understood what it means and they worked with the meanings of things. They would never say a word unless they mean it and they would act according to it, otherwise a person is lying. And for example, today I was talking to someone, we were talking about the first thing the Prophet ﷺ did when he went to Al-Madinah is to build the masjid, as we all know. And when the masjid was built, it was the story of the adhan, right? How to call people, which is a da'wah, right? Adhan is da'wah. How to call people to the masjid. So some people said to have the bell like the Christians, and some said to light a fire, and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ and to some of the companions radiallahu anhum the adhan. And imagine the first adhan, the Prophet ﷺ told Bilal radiallahu anhu to get up and to make the adhan. The people were not assembled of Medina to teach them. Listen, now every time the time for the salah comes, we're gonna say the adhan, and when you hear it, you come. No, the Prophet ﷺ said to Bilal, make the adhan. So think for a second, how was the reaction of the people of Medina when they heard Bilal radiallahu anh on top of the masjid and saying with a loud voice and a beautiful voice, and that's the meaning of Nadiy al-Sawt. Bilal radiallahu anhu, why the Prophet ﷺ chose him? Not because he has beautiful voice only, because sometimes people, they have beautiful voice but they're not loud. And some people, they're loud but their voice are not very nice, right? So he had both, loud so people can hear, and it's beautiful, right? So when he radiallahu anhu called, people said, start saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Of course that gets the attention of the people. These people, their concern is the deen of Allah. And then word after word of the adhan, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the shahada of the tawheed, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Then when he said Hayya ala salah, what did they do? Did they do what we do today? It's like a nasheed being said. Adhan is like, to many of us now, as if we're listening to a nasheed. It sounds nice. We don't react to the words. The adhan is meant to be that we react to it. We say things after the muadhin. But Hayya ala salah, that means, what did they do then? They went to the masjid, because that's what Hayya ala salah means, come to the masjid. They didn't take it as a sound to attract the people or to tell them that this is the beginning of the time. If it was meant only to tell the people that this is the beginning of Asr Salah, right? It could have been said, Asr Salah, it's time for Asr, and that's it. No, Hayya ala salah, come to the Salah. So immediately they would come to the Salah. And even, in the school, and the effect of that to the students, if somebody would give the adhan, people will continue to talk and eat and everything. But if someone comes to the microphone and no adhan, please everybody come to the musalla because we're going to pray Salatul Dhuhr, everybody will come, because they take it serious, but they don't take the adhan serious. Why? When the adhan is something that has to be taken serious, because that's what it means. The same thing with dhikr, the same thing with everything. So when we say the words to be said, it's very important that we make sure that whatever we say, it's meant. And that's what the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with them, and that's the subject of matters of da'wah and so on. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said that since the da'wah is the highest level whatsoever, because this is the job of the messengers of Allah, if this is the highest level whatsoever, then it can never be attained except by al-ilm, or knowledge of what the person is calling people to. And he says, بل لابد في كمال الدعوة من البلوغ في العلم الآيات الحديث الأثر. That it has to be the kamal, the perfectness of the da'wah, that the person has to have the knowledge of the ayat and the hadith and the traditions and so on. So this is basically knowledge that we have to learn. The first ayat of the Quran, right, it talks about the knowledge. وَعَلَّمَ الْإِنسَانَ مَا لَمْ يَعْلَمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala علم الإنسان, taught the human being what he did not know, whether it's for his physical being or with matters of wahy, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we talk about the verses in the Quran, there are many of them. It talks about the da'wah and the importance of the da'wah and so on. And within these verses, it shows the methodology and the way to give da'wah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that's why when it comes to what is the ruling of da'wah, is it fard or it's not fard, right? And this is something, of course, very important mas'ala or issue that we need to learn. Is it mandatory for us to give da'wah or not? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, which means there should be a group among you, call people to what is good, and enjoin good and forbid evil, and they are the successful ones. So because of this ayah, right, then as the ulama they say it's fard, but not on every single Muslim. It's fard kifayah. It's fard, there is, if some people would take care of it and they're sufficient, then it's not mandatory for everyone. But if there's no group of people that are taking care of this effort of the da'wah, then the whole ummah is in a sinful state, and they have to all take the means till they take care of this. When we see the situations of the Muslims today, how many people, they have no idea what Islam is about. And some people, they narrow the understanding of da'wah to one way only, or to one thinking only. Da'wah is very general and very broad, and people should recognize their different abilities and talents and knowledge and so on. And not everybody should do all the same thing. People can do different things according to how and their capacity and their knowledge and so on. And of course in the Prophet ﷺ we have the best example. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ هَذِي سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Let's say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هَذِي سَبِيلِي, this is my way, أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, I call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ, on clear vision, clear knowledge. Not calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with ignorance or innovations in the deen or anything of that nature. No, calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on clear knowledge. أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, me and those who followed me. And وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, I am not among the polytheists or those who associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, when he sent his letters, which is one of the forms of da'wah, Prophet ﷺ, he spoke to people, he called people individually, and sometimes he sent letters to the kings and the rulers and so on. And it doesn't have to be that only. That's why one of the means of da'wah, when we talk about means, is to write things, writing letters. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, nowadays things have been made so easy and at the same time very dangerous, that you can reach people all over the earth. But just some things that you would type and you hit enter and it's there, and you don't have any control to bring it back anymore. Once you hit enter, once you send it, it's done, right? And the person would see the effect of that in the day of judgment, and this is part of our actions. So this is another thing that we have to be careful with. And great things can be done, and at the same time dangerous things can be done. Prophet ﷺ, what did he write in his letters? For example, when he sent the letter to Herakl, the ruler of the Romans, he said alayhi salatu wassalam, Salamun ala man ittaba al-huda, peace be on those who follow guidance, right? Introduction. Amma ba'd, then after, فَإِنِّي أَدْعُوكَ بِدِعَايَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ, indeed I call you with the calling of al-Islam. Aslim taslam. Aslim, submit yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be safe from all harm. وَأَسْلِمْ يُؤْتِكَ اللَّهُ أَجْرَكَ مَرَّتَيْنِ, and if you submit yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you rewards twice, double. وَإِن تَوَلَّيْتَ فَإِنَّ عَلَيْكَ إِثْمَ الْأَرِيسِيِّينَ, and if you turn away, then you get the sin of the Arisiyin, or your followers, or the farmers of the Romans and so on. When this is amazing when you read the letter. And then the Prophet ﷺ then quoted the ayah, Ya Ahl al-Kitabi ta'alaw ila kalimatin sawa'in baynana wa bainakum, O people of the book, come to a just word between us and you. أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, that we don't worship other than Allah. وَلَا نُشْرِكَ بِهِ شَيْئًا, we do not associate partners with Allah. وَلَا يَتَّخِذَ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and none of us would take one another as arbab or lords, or someone that would obey him in halal and haram and so on. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا, and if they turn away, فَقُولُوا اشْهَدُوا بِأَنَّ مُسْلِمُونَ, then say that, bear witness that we are Muslims. That's it, that's the end of the letter. Not a book with convincing signs and all kinds of things there. But does that mean if things are long and convincing it's not good? No. But who the Prophet ﷺ is sending this letter to? To Herakl. From the hadith of Abu Sufyan radiallahu anh, before he was a Muslim, in the beginning of Sahih al-Bukhari, a long hadith that he had a dialogue with